Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to start by introducing Cheryl LeClair, who's going to share her screen at this time. I can back out of mine. Oops. There you go. Cheryl, you should be able to share now. We're going to start with Cheryl LeClair. I'm generally going to allow folks to introduce themselves in whatever way they'd like to, but I do want to acknowledge that Cheryl was a professor of mine at the School of Social Work many, many years ago, and she's really a large part of the reason I transitioned from being a clinical social worker to a macro or policy-based social worker, and I've really valued her example for more than 25 years. And I really appreciate that she joined us at the very last minute to cover for a colleague that's out. That's the kind of person Cheryl is. So without further ado, Cheryl will speak to us until 6:50 about making policy through the state regulatory process. So welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me tonight. I was looking forward to meeting you all and sharing with you information about the Department of Health's regulation process, because that's what I'm going to really mostly speak about, although many of the things that I'm going to talk about do cross over various department lines, but I'm going to be wearing my Department of Health hat as I provide you with information. Can everyone see my screen, first of all?
We can, but you're not in the slideshow mode. You might want to transfer over to that. But otherwise, we can see you great, and I'll let you know when you've got it up that way.
Okay, like I said, I'm not familiar.
So if you hit slideshow in the top of your, right above where your cursor is right now. Whoop. No. I don't know how to. I think we can go. Yeah, there it is. Yep. And then just hit from the beginning.
From beginning. All right, great.
Yep.
We're sorry, folks. We use Teams, so it's been a long time since I did the Zoom. All right, so people can see that. Is that good?
Yeah. Yes, it's fine.
All right, and I'm Cheryl LeClair, and I'm the Director of Policy in the Office of Policy at the Department of Health. The Office of Policy is located in the Director's Office. In this capacity, I work with the Department of Health Special Assistant for Administration, Legislation, and Policy. That gentleman's name is Neil Heitinen. Some of you may be familiar with him. And I also work closely with our Chief Financial Officer, Alicia Colella, on policy-related aspects of our state legislative activities and our budget process. I basically am responsible for working with Alicia on budget articles that we submit. I also oversee the department's Office of Health Regulations, which is staffed by our rules coordinator. His name is Zachary Garceau. And our Office of Regulations works with Department of Health divisions, programs, legal counsel to ensure that our regulations fully and accurately meet the department's public health goals and statutory and regulatory requirements. Rule or regulation means the whole or a part of an agency statement or general applicability outside of the agency that implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy or organization, procedure, or practice requirements of an agency. The terms rule and regulations are used interchangeably. You'll see that in statute. They'll use the word rules. They'll use the word regulation. Sometimes they use both. The Department of Health and other state agencies receive the authority to promulgate or implement regulations through laws, which are known as our agency's statutory authorities. We're not allowed or permitted to just engage in any rule that we want to create out of a hat. We have to have some statutory authority to be able to do so. And the regulatory process is guided by the Administrative Procedures Act, which is a law, and it appears in Chapter 42-35. These are Rhode Island Department of Health regulations. It gives you an idea of where we have the most regulatory activity within our organization. We have over about 130 regulations, which is a large amount. It's a huge amount. We used to be #1 in the state, but I do believe that DEM somehow surpassed us in number of regulations. But as you can see, the area of our department that has the most regulations is in yellow, and that's professional healthcare licensing and healthcare facilities regulation. By far, they have the most regulations in the Department of Health, as you can see. That's followed by environmental health regulations, followed by community health related regulations, followed by public health administration regulations, followed by the state laboratory medical examiner, and to a far lesser degree or number, infectious diseases. Statutes often contain language which explicitly provides the department with the authority to develop regulations on a specific topic. For example, just using this as an example, the Genetic Counselors Act states right in the law, for the purposes of conducting its responsibilities under this chapter, the Department of Health shall have the following powers and duties. And it says right there, to promulgate regulations and adopt such rules as are necessary to regulate genetic counselors. So our friends over at the General Assembly are very, very clear in their direction to the Department of Health and other state agencies in giving us the parameters around which we can promulgate regulations. We then develop the regulations that build off of the requirements provided in the statute, and this is where the public comes in, as department has the responsibility of implementing additional requirements as needed. We don't have to adopt any additional requirements, but it's as needed to implement the statute statutory intent. And then the public, of course, can weigh in on several points during the rulemaking process. By design, the Administrative Procedure Act, which governs our regulations process in the state of Rhode Island, is designed to be a public process. And again, there are several points where the public can weigh in. Ways to get involved in rulemaking. Community review as part of a regulatory process. We sometimes hold, in fact, the Department of Health holds them a lot. Community review, that's a nickname that we've given it. You won't find that in the statute or at all in the Administrative Procedure Act. In the Administrative Procedures Act, it's more, it's referred to as advance notice of proposed rulemaking. But community review for us can also mean, which the statute gives us the ability to meet with various community groups or individuals, and we can actually have conversations about our ideas for regulations or proposed regulations, even in advance of the formal advance notice of proposed rulemaking. Then once we have a public comment period, which is a formal period, the public is definitely invited to submit formal public comments and to us, and we review all of those comments. The last way that the public could become involved is that in the statute, there's also a provision where folks can petition the Department of Health or any other agency for rulemaking. And we've had a couple of them in the past few years. One was a petition from a nurse working in a healthcare facility that said, this makes no sense to me. I think that you should change the regulations to say X, Y, and Z. We reviewed it, we agreed with it, and we actually made changes to the regulations that were involved. For regulations, this is the community review. Again, it's a nickname. You won't find this terminology in the statute anywhere where. For regulations that we anticipate will have a high level of public interest, community review meetings may be held. They are a meeting or a series of meetings held by Department of Health open to the public in which proposed regulations are discussed, either in draft form or in just concept, could be either. Community reviews are important as they allow us to engage in a dialogue with the public and gather feedback on potential language for regulations. This is a very important point. Our community review allows us to engage in a discussion with the public. The formal public hearing that we have for regulations, we are not allowed to enter into a dialogue. We are only there to listen to the input we receive through that formal process. So community review continued. We may hold a community review before potential regulatory change has been drafted, or one may be held after language has been developed and available. They're different from public hearings, and I had mentioned that. And people can be requested to be notified about upcoming community reviews, as we'll soon discuss. The rulemaking process after the community review process, or if we decide not to hold a community review, the draft language for the proposed regulations is completed. Once the draft is completed, it's sent to the Office of Regulatory Reform for their review and approval. Once approved by ORR and our friends at the Secretary of State's office for formatting, the regulations can be posted for public comment. Public comments must be at least 30 days, although they may be longer if deemed necessary by a department. During the formal public comment period, any member of the public may submit comments to us. The department maintains an interested parties email list that receives notice of all rulemaking actions that we do. To be added to the list, you can send an email to our rules coordinator, Zachary Garceau. There is his email address. And you can also sign up for notification emails from the Secretary of State's office through their website. Please know our interested, if you want to sign up for our interested parties list, there is no such thing as signing up for just a particular area that you're interested in, like environmental health regulations. If you're on our list, you get everything. So you'll get notification of all of our regulatory activity. Public hearings, a public hearing may be held. It's not required. And there is statutory language about when that can be held. And if we decide that we don't want to have a public hearing, and there may be cases that we will decide not to, we may have had community review meetings that we thought we got all the input we needed, and we may be getting some external pressure to move on regulations more quickly. We can have a direct final rule. However, if we don't have a hearing, we have to grant a hearing if a request is received by 25 persons or by a government agency or by an association having not less than 25 members. And it must be open to the public, recorded and held at least 5 days before the public. So there's always a risk if you don't have the actual public hearing, that somebody may object to that, and it's kind of starting things all over again. Again, the whole process is designed to maximize public input, which is a good thing. An agency may choose to hold a public hearing for a rule without one being requested. During the public hearing, individuals are provided the opportunity to provide both oral and written testimony. Unlike the community review, during the public comment period, we can only accept public testimony. Again, we can't engage in any dialogue. Oops, I think I missed something. Yeah, we can only accept public comments that are in relation to the proposed adopted amended text. This is important. So going back to the nurse that petitioned us, and she wanted us to change the language X, Y, and Z in the regulations. If we go to public comment and somebody says, oh, I have an objection to the language that says ABC in another part, we can't take that comment or do anything with it, because we will, I mean, it's all in the notice that goes up, because we're only discussing X, Y, and Z, not ABC. In other words, it's a little, I hope that was kind of clear. If it's not, I'll be happy to explain it more later during the question period. But all public comments received become part of the public rulemaking record, and they're public comments. So if anybody feels that they don't want the public to see what they wrote, don't give us public comments. When filing a final rule after the public comment, we have to develop a concise explanatory statement. Every relevant comment received must be addressed by us. We review them all. If the agency proposes additional changes to the text in response to a comment, it must be noted in the CES. If we don't agree with a comment or choose not to make any additional changes, the reason must be stated in the CES. Petitioning for rulemaking, this is what I was saying earlier about using the example of the nurse that petitioned us. Any person may petition an agency to promulgate a rule. Not later than 30 days after submission of a petition, the agency shall deny the petition in a record and state its reasons for the denial or initiate rulemaking. This option provides the public with the opportunity to engage in the rulemaking process. It's a lovely thing. Finding rulemaking documents on past amendments can be located on the Secretary of State's website. And if you look at, for example, licensure and discipline of physicians, this is on the Secretary of State's website. It will tell you, it'll help, you'll see all of the documents right there. And that's everything I think I have. And
you brought us right to 6:50. You did it in the exact amount of time you had available to you. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we don't really have time for questions, but I know, Cheryl, that you answered the questions that folks had asked in advance about how to petition for rulemaking. So thank you to the people that participated in the breakout session last week, because we were able to get those questions over to all of the speakers in advance if there were any. So Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're certainly welcome to stay with us for the rest of the night or move on. I'm sure you've got stuff that you'd like to be doing.
I just need one thing. Tell me
Yes.
how I get out of the slides.
There should be a button that says stop sharing.
Stop sharing. There we go.
There we go.
Am I good?
You're great. Thank you, Cheryl, so much for joining us tonight. I'm sorry we didn't have time for questions, but I think we got most of, I think you included all of them. And then if we hear any questions after this, I'll be sure to follow up with you and with Zach for additional feedback.
Sounds good. Yeah, just send any questions along to me and we will be happy to answer them.
Thank you again for filling in at the last minute. Nice to see you. Take good care.